Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed part one of our exciting interview with Billy and Croquette Hudson. We're going to dive right into part two. If you haven't seen part one, make sure you go back and check it out. But let's get right into the interview.
Wow. Wow.
Beautiful.
If you don't mind, I want to just journey with you guys and just get a little bit real and talk about some of the mountains and the valleys of your relationship. Talk about some of the highs and lows. And we definitely appreciate you opening up. And you don't have to go into any detail. You can give as much detail as you want or as little detail as you want. But just wanting to know, has there been a time in your marriage where you actually thought that you might not make it, or not even where you thought you might not make it, but you knew you weren't going to make it? Like, was there ever any of those moments, or one in particular?
Well, I'm gonna say this real quick before I know my wife's gonna chime in, but I'm gonna say this in something that you guys don't know about this whole basketball journey, right? Back in '85, that Patrick, who I just lost, my friend, whatever. But we were on this team, this basketball team together, and Pastor Robbins was our coach. And Pastor Robbins, come on, man, Pastor Robbins, he has game.
I know,
he's a leader of men. You know what I'm saying? So he was our coach. And I mean, there was times in Choias Lake, man, early on in this thing, Pastor Robbins knows that me and him were walking around Choias. I had a knee surgery way back in the days, and me and Croquette, I think I had moved out at the time. So there's real history there connected to that pastor of yours and the whole thing. So I just wanted to add that because it hasn't always been rosy. It hasn't always been rosy. It's a journey, and fortunately you have people who are in your corner who love you, who have interceded along the way. And Pastor Robbins is one of those men. I just want to share that with you.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So because he's mentioning, like I said, we had a blended family. So we had our daughter, and then I had my son from a previous marriage. So we're blending those together. That was another beautiful thing about Bill and coming together, because from his previous marriage, he didn't have any children. And that's one of the things he really wanted to be, was a father. And so, that's what happened with us kind of getting together. And so it was a little different because I was on my own for a while. I was making all my decisions. I was raising my son. I took control of my life. And so now to have this male figure and a new baby, and now trying to blend all of that, we had challenges. We bumped head. I am a very headstrong person.
No, not you, honey.
No, but I got better. I get better. But but I had to learn. I had to learn his style, and he had to learn my style. Everybody talk about the love languages and things of that nature. We had to learn each other's love language because we had that all mixed up. So there was a point where he actually did move out, and our daughter was very young, and we were both like, we're done with this. We can't communicate. We can't make this work. We were co-parenting our daughter. He was literally down the street around the corner at an apartment, and our daughter was going there and visiting back and forth. And what ended up bringing us back together was when we had those fires that happened, and we had to evacuate out of our home. So he had to come and help us evacuate and everything like that. And I think in the course of all of that, when you're thinking about like what could have potentially happened, not necessarily losing your home or anything like that, even though that was a possibility, you started thinking about what was important. And I think we had a turning point there in our relationship. And he might have said something, can I come back home now, or something like that,
maybe something like that.
Because we, I think at the core of what we are too, we like to laugh, and you've got to lighten things up when it gets too heavy. And that was one of the turning points that kind of brought us back together. That started that journey. Along with that, we did do counseling with pastors, and we even had like regular, your professional counselors. I think you need a combination of both. And they give you, you've got the spiritual side that's giving you that prayer life that you need to, and why you're together and your purpose and things of that nature. And then how, you can bless one another, bless each other as a couple, bless your family, bless others. So we're getting that spiritual connection. And then you're getting the practical aspects of like, okay, maybe I need to stop and take 10 breaths, and some of those practical elements on how you deal with each other, or how you deal with stress, or how you deal with confrontation and all those other things. So we had to get a little bit of that to bring us back in balance. So yeah, so that wasn't a great time. It was kind of a dark time. We didn't know where we were going to end up.
So when we say, for the viewers though, when we say move out, we're saying move out.
No, no, he packed his
No,
bags.
I'm just trying to say, when I'm saying it, we're talking about from each of us, this is done, situation. I'm just trying to say, it was that. And I remember a situation that when I came back home, it was a situation we had starting to do some type of correspondence, whatever it was. And I remember I think they were having some type of seminar at Maranatha Church. And we were going there. And my guy, Pastor Peeler, he went to school with my brother and sister at La Sierra way back in the days, powerful man of God. He was the minister at Maranatha. Okay. So I've had this relationship with him. So anyways, the long and short of it, I went to my wife's house, whatever, we started talking, whatever. They were having a baptism that evening. Yeah. Okay. So 5 o'clock that evening, long and short, we jumped in the hot tub, man, that evening, man, apart. And it was the most powerful baptism. No, people were hollering in that church,
wow.
Because they knew us and so on and so forth. And they kind of knew a little bit of our story, and it was special. It was special. There was probably about 12 people who got baptized that night, but the church was packed. I wish I could get the video for it. It was special.
It was because the people didn't know what we had gone through. And literally, I want to tell you, I almost went in that whole pool kicking and screaming because I'm like, dude, you just got back. You're like, I'm just barely talking to you. Now you're talking about let's get baptized and and I had to just put it down. I had to give it over to God. Yeah. Right. And I just had to concede, and I had to let all of those feelings that I had going on and just say, you know what? Something is pulling me towards this and I need to do it. And yeah, that was kind of a turning point.
So it's always been, at the end of the day, my wife loves to laugh. She'll laugh at herself. She'll be singing in the mirror. She'll be laughing at herself. That's how she is. But it always what has, over the years, regardless, through prayer, through not prayer, has been spiritual. Always in this relationship. And that's real talk. For it's almost been 22 years now, 21 years. So yes, it's been spiritual.
Wow, that's amazing too, to have that, I guess, godly help in a lot of ways. That is to be able to rely on God when, like you said, you just don't want to go back. You want to kick and scream. You don't want to be there. It's like God's pulling you in that direction. And when you be pulled in that direction, you got to follow it, no matter how much your ego's getting in the way. Right?
Exactly.
Yeah. And then one last thing I want to add to, as far as your relationships, you got to make sure that, my history is you got to make sure that you surround yourself around people of God. And don't get me wrong, I got some folks, I lived in LA for 3 years, so we ran those streets, you know what I'm saying? But you got to make sure you surround yourself around people of God, because at the end of the day, you don't even know it. And they're putting up stripes for you. You don't even know it, but you feel it. And if I didn't get if that prayer didn't come through, we wouldn't have made it. So you got to make sure you surround yourself with people, who love the Lord.
Mm-hmm. So my wife grew up in LA. Does that mean you ran them streets?
Yeah. You know me.
Yeah. I got to throw this in there though, Billy. Billy, man to man, I just, as you're talking, like, I really admired what you said, and I got to admonish you. You moved out. Like, you pieced out, you moved on, and then the fires happened, and you came back to make sure that they were okay. You came back like that was your daughter, that was your stepson now, who you had been his father. This was who was not now your wife, but I just admire the fact that you still showed up,
Hey, I appreciate it. As a matter of fact, when I was coming up the street, I'm just letting you know this, when I was coming up the street, because you know where the Coors Amphitheater is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We bought into a new development there in 2000. So when I'm coming up the street, there was a police car saying, hey, you guys got to go. He's on the bullhorn type of thing. That's how it was, situation based on, because they were worried about this thing jumping the river and, coming this way. So that's what I remember when I came in the neighborhood. There was a police car, going up and down. It was a serious time. Yeah.
Wow. Well, way to show up. Way to show up.
Yeah. Thank you for that transparency too, because I think it's, so I think we have these expectations a lot that nothing bad ever happens in people who've been married for long term. Like, oh, they just found the right person. They've been fine and perfect this whole time. But really, like, we're both humans it's two humans coming together with all of their stuff from the past, all of their, limitations, and coming together And of course, that's going to have some conflict along the way, but it's the way that you handle it, right? And I love that you shared that story. It's really, really inspiring. And you've also mentioned some of the things that have helped you handle your conflict, such as laughter and just kind of knowing when you're disconnected, and also not staying in the down place too long, you mentioned.
Right.
So
having spiritual people around you,
spiritual people
who are
around
praying
you,
for you,
yeah.
without getting that godly counsel from not just
Exactly.
a pastor, but even a professional. Like you guys just
yeah,
went all in.
And getting back to as far as the opposites, we're not opposite, but we are opposite to a degree. And my wife, being so spirited, like I said, she can entertain herself by herself, and she'll be okay. And I'm considered at times to be the killjoy. So I'm just trying to say at times. So there's a balance that comes through. You know, we kind of balance each other out, basically.
that's really nice.
Mm.
And are there any other ways specifically that you handle conflict? Are there any strategies that you guys have, like when you do come to a disagreement, how you end up coming together or even coming to an understanding, even if you still disagree?
Well, you know, I think the big key focus with us is that you've got to bring the emotion down. You're not going to solve anything at the heat of emotion. When we've had to figure that out. And it's just, I just had to learn, even though I wanted to solve it right then and there, I'm like, I need to give him time, let him absorb it, let him deal with it, and vice versa. He's got to give me time too. But for him, he's got to think about it a little longer. You know, I'm the one who wants to solve it like right away, and I can have a conversation. I guess I feel like I can have a conversation with you when I'm emotional, you know, but when he's really emotional, it's like full stop. We can't do that. So understanding that about him and giving him that time. I remember early on in our relationship, I would know that something was bothering him. He wouldn't say anything. So he would literally walk around all day long. And I'm like, something's wrong with him. I'm like, you need to talk to me. And I'm like in his face, you got to talk to me. What's wrong with you? Blah, 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 blah. And he kept pushing me back. And I had to learn, give him that time so he can kind of download for that. And then have the conversation and like, okay, what's wrong? What's going on? What did I do? you know, and those types of things. And then just kind of breaking that apart.
That's really good.
Another thing too with my wife and myself, you got to understand, I don't like confrontation.
No.
I don't like confrontation. I'm a graduate, you know, at 21 years old, I went and I was working in state prisons. You know what I'm saying? I'm just saying. So that's where I grew up, in the school of hard knocks, based upon that. So I don't like confrontation. So based upon, and my wife's the type, you know, she's the type, you know, she you know, it's going.
I solve it.
She wants to solve the situation. So that's the thing. Give it time and move forward.
Time. That's really good.
Yeah. So let's move into this last part here, and I just want to talk about now this treasure that you guys have found in one another, and this you know, that obviously it's not a treasure if it's laying on top. You got to dig for it. And so you guys have dug and you've done the work, and you found this treasure. And just straight up, what advice would you give your younger selves, or to those watching this interview and you're young in your relationship, or you're looking to start a relationship? But if you were speaking to your younger selves, what advice would you give your younger selves?
You know what, I would just say, you know, you guys got to set expectations. I think people go into situations with their own set, and they haven't effectively communicated that with one another. And I think, and that was one of the challenges we had early on. I had an expectation of him being a husband, and he had an expectation of me being a wife. Some of that was baggage that we had brought in from another relationship. Some of it we had talked about, but there was bits and pieces of it that we really needed to communicate with. Like, for example, you know, I had a son already. So I had already gone through, you know, potty training, diapering, and all this, you know, for me, I thought I knew how to raise a kid. And here he's coming along with our new daughter, and now it's all new to him. Right. But for me, I'm like, oh, I got this. But I needed to step back and give him that opportunity to learn this newness, enjoy this newness, have input. And one of the things, this is a funny little story, when she was born in like March. So that was like right before Easter. So we do this whole big thing with my mom and family, go to church Easter Sunday. So I went out and I bought her an Easter dress, not thinking that would bother him at all. Because I'm like, why was dad want to be involved in buying a dress? So I went out and I bought her, I think, a pink dress. And he was like, well, I want her to have a yellow dress. And he wanted to be a part of the whole thing. And
Wow.
that was me running with like, well, this is what moms do, and not having him become a part of that. And that has been one of the things I've had to learn, that he likes to be a part of those things. Like, let's go pick out her dress. Let's go get this for him. He wants to be a part of those decisions, where I usually think that's just something moms do because I've done it. And I had to realize that. So setting those expectations, understanding that, be willing to forgive. You've got to be willing to forgive. It's true when they say forgiveness is not for them, it's for you. You've got to understand, when to let certain things go. And if you know that this person loves you and they're behind you, and whatever they had done, if it's not done out of malice, out of hurt, it could have just been done out of, people, we're human, we can be inconsiderate at times, and just understand there was no ill intent behind it. You got to forgive and you got to let it go, because the more you keep it there and it festers, it impacts your relationship down the line. So you have to be able to do those two things. So I think that's what I would tell my younger self, because I've been one of those people that can hold a grudge. Yeah, I can bring it up like, yep, you did this, you don't do it again. I had to let some of that go and understand that.
One thing, I think there's no shortcuts, man. If you go back in the place and time, you can't take shortcuts.
Yeah.
And you have to plan. You have to plan. You can't in a situation where you're your young self, just fly by the seat of your pants. You've gotta put some time and some thought and some information into it prior to moving forward. That's very important. And the second part of this is the fact that what we're talking about right now, you got to understand what we're talking about right now. We are ministering to ourselves for the future.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. We're ministering to ourselves for the future. So struggles that we had 20 years ago, we got some of those same struggles right now.
Right.
That's what we're talking about. That's why I say we're self-talking this out. It's important. It's almost like you guys are the referees here. You guys don't know it, but we're talking about the future. It's important.
Wow.
Yeah, that's really, really insightful too, to think, you're also speaking to yourselves. You're ministering to yourselves, just talking it out and your future selves.
Yeah.
That's really cool. So what advice would you give to somebody, or another married couple in the church who is on the verge of quitting their marriage? Struggles you've been through in the past. So what have you learned that you can share with somebody else who's going through those same struggles?
I think you've got to sit down and determine what's important. I literally sat down and I wrote out a list, and I determined what was important. And then I wrote down all this stuff that I thought that annoyed the heck out of me, and all this stuff that I wanted on this side. And I said, all this stuff that's annoying me, are they deal breakers? Are they really deal breakers? Or are these just things that are annoying me because my expectations were off? Right. And so I had to sit down and I had to personally do that. And once I determined that, okay, this item and this item is not a deal breaker, then I'm like, okay, then now you need to come up with an idea of how to resolve that. And that's how I put it. And even today, if something happens, I'm like, is that a deal breaker? Then let it go. Let's move forward and let's find a way to resolve it. I think that's what happens, is that we take sometimes the smallest thing and we use that to blow up a relationship, where it's something that you could technically kind of work through, in really drilling it down to the bare minimum. Because if you got the love there, you got the connection there, that the person is there for you, they believe in you, you've got all those other pieces, and you're still holding on to just one part. You got to make sure that that it's truly a deal breaker. And we kind of know what those things are, that really cut and dry, that shouldn't be a part of a relationship. But for me, that's what I would say to somebody who's kind of struggling through something like that. I think Bill's going to add on to the fact, because what he mentioned before, surrounding yourselves with those people that can encourage you, and provide you that godly counsel, as well as just some of the practical applications. Like I said before, we've used both of those in our relationships. And even sometimes when things are coming together, you'll get a text and somebody says, you've been on my heart. I've been praying for you. And I say, see, it was God. I knew that was happening.
Wow.
Because I was really trying and it didn't seem like it was working. And it was just those people that are in your life that are doing that for you. God is using them to help you, with your marriage and your relationship. And if you're having those bonds and those connections with people, they're always interceding on your behalf.
Two things that I wanted to say real quick. I know one thing is that we talked about it a little bit before, and it was kind of, rehearsed based upon my wife had mentioned counseling. And when she had mentioned counseling, she was talking about, you have to have your spiritual counseling. Let's just say it was Pastor Robbins, whoever it was. And then, it was Pastor King. And then you need to have worldly counseling as well, because it could be a situation that could be attributed to mental health. There's a lot of other areas, so you have to address them. You have to address them properly. And then, like I would say, as far as to somebody else moving forward, and this is where me and my wife have suffered from, and we need to, do a better job of that, is as far as praying together, man. I mean, it's not gonna get any more powerful than you sitting and grabbing your wife's hand, no matter what the strife is, and say, you know what, Lord, hey, it's bigger than us, man. We need you to come through. We're banking on you. You've promised, so we're banking on you coming through. So you have to have a prayer life with your wife and your husband. And I mean, that's probably the most important thing.
Wow. I love that.
I'm a witness to that. I can definitely testify. There's been some times where we just had to stop and pray. And I mean, that is solid. That is so solid. That is so true. Wow. That was just a wealth of knowledge and a wealth of experience. We thank you for being transparent and being real, kind of pulling the covers back on some of the imperfections. We appreciate it. And let's just get out of here with this last question. And I want to know, though you've said a lot and you've probably answered this question in a lot of different ways, but at the end of the day, what is the secret? What has been the key to, so far, your lasting marriage? What is the one secret?
You started.
The key is with my wife. What is to keep her laughing. She loves laughter. I'm just trying to say it's a nutrient she needs. She enjoys laughing. So if you keep my wife laughing, you have a much better chance of having a successful marriage. That's go ahead, baby.
That's oh.
Okay, Wilbur. I mean, I don't know. I think it's just kind of been like all of the above of what we've kind of said before. I think too, finding those small little joys that the other person enjoys a lot, and providing that for him, and that's how he is too. I mean, he's got his little favorite meals that he likes, and I go above and beyond and get that little favorite dish because I love to cook. He loves to eat, so I love to give him those little special dishes and those things, and being attentive in that way. I think you do. I think you have to realize, again, what's important to the other person, and taking the time out to make it happen for them, so that they feel the importance. Some people need for you to show it. Some people need you to tell it to them, understanding how that person receives love and make sure you are providing it in the manner in which they receive it. That was one of the things that we learned on early on. He was the one where I had to tell him I love him all the time and things of that nature. And he had to hear it. He had to feel it. I had to touch him and all this. And I was the opposite. I'm like, you need to show me, like, you need to wash a dish, sweep the floor, help me out. That's showing me that you love me. And so we had to balance that out. So then, when I come home and the bed is made and the laundry's sitting folded up, I was like, yes, he loves me, and then I call him up, I love you, honey, and walk in the door and give him a kiss. He's like, yes, she loves me. I mean, it seems simple, but it's us understanding how we both receive love and those types of things. And so, I think we learned that and balanced that out over the years, and we get better. And then when I realize something is not going, I'm like, oh, then I send him love you, send him a little heart emoji or something like that, and letting him know that I'm thinking about him, because I know, he is that sentimental guy. Yeah. And I didn't know he was crying in the theater today, but he is the family crier.
No.
He will cry.
We come from a long line in my family. The men were criers. So.
Yeah, he will cry at a drop of a dime. So he's
That is the most masculine thing you can do. I love it.
Oh, it's not negative. It's just that my daughter and I will like, okay, it's gonna happen. And we're like, who's gonna go first? I said, it's gonna be dad. And we just wait for the tears to come. So
That's
it's
why
okay.
I can't be speaking in front of the church. None of that kind of stuff, man. It's not good.
Just go into weeping, huh?
Wow.
Exactly. Exactly. But I think just understanding those things about each other. I mean, you gotta have laughter. That's what lightens it all up.
Wow.
You gotta have fun. And we laugh at each other. We make each other laugh. I mean, we've had some good times just cracking jokes. So it's fun.
Yeah.
That's great. Laughter is the key to marriage. I've heard that on several occasions from other.
No doubt. Yes.
Yeah, there's got to be something to it.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. Thank you both so much for joining us.
Hey, you are welcome.
Been really, really awesome talking to you.
Yeah, I'm sure it was not easy to pull back the covers, but we appreciate it. And I'm sure that people watching this will go a long way for someone, for a number of, actually, I know it's gone, like I've already got some things, some tidbits. So I can let you know that what you've done has not been in vain. So thank you so much for sharing with us.
Hey, appreciate that. Thank you guys.
Yeah, let me pray us out here if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, dear God, for this conversation with Billy and Croquette. Thank you for the ups and the downs, the highs and the lows. Thank you for what they share. I pray that someone watching will receive and learn and grow and be better equipped with the tools that you have given them. Continue to bless their marriage, continue to bless their children, their family. Let them see another 20 years, give them longevity, more trips, Fiji and Hawaii and around, and more plays, and more tears, more favorite dinners, more I love yous.
Yes.
And let us have the same in our lives because of their example. Thank you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Appreciate that prayer. Thank you
so much,
Thank you,
guys. Thanks so
And
much.
Wow, that was absolutely amazing. I hope that you had as much fun watching that as we did having that conversation with Billy and Croquette. And I pray that there was something there that you were able to take with you either into your current relationship or the relationship you hope to be in someday soon. Please join us again for another exciting interview on Friday, part 1, and Monday, part 2, with another couple to hear their secrets to a long-lasting marriage. In the meantime, God bless. Happy Valentine's Day, and we'll see you soon.